As a connoisseur of the 3D platforming variety, I've been eating very good recently. Demon Turf has been a very fun time, really cool movement with a very unconventional style choice. I played Pseudo Regalia earlier this year, which blew my mind. This may be one of the coolest games I played all year. Having a 3D platformer with Metroid-esque exploration and pacing is pretty damn unique, and ended up working extremely well. Also, the movement is nuts, and also the atmosphere is perfect, and also it's just really good. Just buy it, please. It's like $7. And speaking of cheap 3D platformers on Steam with good movement, the topic of today's video, Kidz 64. This one came out of nowhere. I don't recall how I heard about it, but when I saw it on Steam, I was digging the style, so I bought it and subsequently found out it had come out the same day I discovered it. And oh man, this game also blew my mind. A passion project of a 3D platformer that oozed charm the entire way through, and I need to talk about it. There is barely any footage or coverage of this game anywhere, so PaperDawN has come to do this indie game justice. Hopefully. So Kidz 64 is an adaptation of the classic horror movie Children of the Corn, probably. Actually, probably not. I'm not sure what the correlation with the Stephen King book is. Well, wait, apparently it's called Kids because they're goats with a single horn, like a unicorn. Wait, is that seriously the reason? Anyways, Kidz is a 3D platformer collectathon akin to something like Banjo, or more accurately, something like Rocket Robot on Wheels. You play as this little goat dude named Sev, and you have pretty much two main movement options. You can jump, and you can headbutt. You can headbutt in a bunch of different directions, and even in the air. The game's movement is all about how you utilize your headbutt to platform around. The headbutt is multifaceted, of course. You can use it to spin wheels, kill enemies, grab these bomb guys. It's all pretty neat and intuitive. You have this 3-hit Mario 64 combo thing, but it's not super useful. Enemies don't really have a set amount of HP. It's more just like hit them 3 times in a row, meaning if you mess up your 3-hit combo, they don't die and you gotta land all 3 again. It's a slightly different way to handle the enemy fodder in the game, but doesn't add too much, honestly. The movement is definitely where this game shines. The game has this really unique way of handling wall clings and jumps. You sort of like do this run up the wall to try to reach the ledge, but can easily jump out of it and do a wall jump to make the distance up the wall or jump in the opposite direction. This all may sound very simple, and that's because it is. The movement in this game is actually deliberately simplistic, I feel. You aren't loaded with moves using like every button on your controller compared to something like Pseudo Regalia. I feel this lets the game play with its level design in really clever ways. Platforming obstacles have such a natural feel to them. You feel so in control. You are Sev, and Sev is you at some point. The movement becomes second nature. It's so cool. I absolutely love games that play like this. You don't feel overpowered with options. You feel deliberately limited. And this may not sound like a selling point, but being this simple is such a huge part of what makes this game so satisfying to play. And boy howdy, does this game feel satisfying to play. The animation definitely helps a lot with this. Sev's movements are so fluid and cartoony, the jump has such a good squash and stretch to it, even stuff like getting hit and falling can be so weirdly satisfying. I'd sometimes just bunny hop around, not because I thought it kept some momentum or something. It might, I actually don't know, I haven't seen a speedrun of this game. But mainly just because I liked how it looked to hop around the world. It's honestly something I was kind of taken back by at first. And Sev's design lent itself so insanely well to this kind of cartoony animation. I mean, look at him, he's just like a little dude. Very expressive and fun, and an amazing translation of the creator Bogo's unique art style. I think it's worth mentioning here that the music is also really neat. I can't really tell or get a solid answer if the music was originally composed for this game, or their compositions already made that were used and credited as such. At least one of the artists credited did do music for Bogo's older game, Lyle and Cube Sector, and some of the music dates back to like 2020, so it's kind of hard to say. Either way, I think this game's X factor is its movement and how it looks and feels to move. And obviously, a game's movement would mean nothing without cool places to move around in, right? Well, luckily, Kidz has a whopping 1 place you move around in. I'm being cheeky, but impressively, this game is basically just one massive Banjo-Tooie-esque sized level. You do a little tutorial level, but you are quickly thrown into the main level of the game, Hollow Wallow. There's a ton to do here, like a ton. The main collectible in the game is EXP points in the form of these little cubes. Getting levels gives you access to new areas of the world. It's actually super neat, because the concept on paper sounds really unique, like experience points in a collectathon platformer that's very different. But it's honestly not that different than, like, collecting music notes in Banjo. But it being EXP just kind of naturally gives it a different feel to collect. Along with these elusive cubes, there are also other various things to find throughout the world, usually ultimately leading to more EXP cubes. Getting those levels is the main focus of what you'll be doing. Wallow Hollow has a pretty cool vibe to it. The Rareware looking leaves flying around as you run through them, and Rareware looking scenery in the background. And the constant theming around palindromes is such a unique idea. Characters talk in palindromes, the names on the tombstones are palindromes. I really love that all the iconography in the church is dog themed. That's a really good joke. It got a really good chuckle out of me. At some point you'll unlock a room that flips the entire world completely, really emphasizing this palindrome theme. But man, this flippy thing adds a whole new layer to this level. Suddenly knobs are all moving in the opposite direction, meaning the knob that moves something up now moves it down. This idea seems like so obvious to me, like so many platformers have ways to change the world, like Click Clock would. So I guess I would have assumed a game had done something like this before. But honestly, I can't really think of another. I'm sure there are examples, but in my awesome gamer memory, I don't really remember any. It's neat to discover everything that's changed in the world. It feels a little daunting at first, like do I really have to come through the entire stage again? But very quickly you get a feel for what the stage changes and what would logically lead to new, oh my god, I voice cracked, and what would logically lead to new secrets. And besides a whole lot of stuff to find, the stage has a main objective. This being removing the Kabora Gabora big owl thing from the tree. I won't tell you how to do it, but it's pretty funny and stupid. So slight spoiler warning for final parts of this game. I won't show any explicit detail about the final cutscenes or anything, but if you want to go in 100% blind, then I would just stop the video now. Hopefully I've sold you already on this game, but for those who are still here, inside the tree you have a little platforming section leading to the owl himself. And pro tip, make sure you're level 4 before trekking to the top of this tree. I made that mistake my first playthrough. After you beat him the heck up, you win. Kinda. Beating him opens a door in the hub area that leads to the true final platforming challenge, the tower. A gauntlet of tight platforming that really puts all of your skills to the test. And this is where the game really shows off its stuff. I'm a huge fan of intense platforming gauntlets like this. And since you basically have like infinite continues, it makes this section tough, but not too stressful, you know, not too anxiety inducing. The way you utilize the drill and wall jumps is so fun, and this is why the simplistic and more physics-based control scheme works so well. You're able to feel so much more in control, making tight sections like these so much more satisfying. And they're able to introduce new ideas to you in the final level without it feeling too annoying or cheap. These spring guys just make so much sense. You will immediately know exactly what you're supposed to do with them because the game has established its mechanical rules so well. Just all really impressive stuff. And a perfect little level to finish off the game. Right? Well, after you beat this tower and you watch a silly cutscene, which I won't show, you're spit back into the hub and, what? Now there's a 5 door? You're telling me there's enough EXP scattered around this world to get to level 5? And to answer myself, yes, there is. Like I said before, this game is littered with secrets. Some you may not have even glanced at your first run through. Did you notice these gravestones make sounds? Did you notice this fish in the shop makes similar sounds? There's a ton of crazy nooks and crannies to rummage through. Way too many to list here, and I honestly wouldn't even want to spoil most of them. It can be a little aimless, and you may end up running around like an idiot for like hours, it feels. But the feeling of finding those loose EXP cubes is so satisfying. The puzzles feel like a real test of your wits at times, and many times the NPCs through the levels give you some really good and sometimes cryptic hints about puzzle solutions. It almost feels as if no one has nothing, quote-unquote, to say. Everything is meant to give you the tiniest nudge in the right direction. Granted, some cubes are just really dumb. Like, I'll save you some time right now. There's one behind the entrance to the roof in this house. Me and my friend were on Discord hunting for this EXP for hours. We would have just looked up a guide or some kind of walkthrough, but there was literally nothing. Only really a few people on the Steam forums were talking about this post-game stuff, and the dev giving the vaguest hints to help out. There were collectibles we were finding that kind of felt as if we were the first ones to discover it. At all. It was a really cool feeling that I honestly don't think I've ever had before with a video game. And during our spelunking to find all these EXP things, we ran into another collectible called a Void Screw, which we had no idea what to do with, no idea how many there were, and no idea what it would lead to. It was such an exciting feeling, like this sense of discovery with this stuff was so cool. And now I'll be getting into another layer of spoilers, the post-Door 5 spoilers. If you don't want to see what's beyond this point, well, you've been warned. So anyway, we were able to get to level 5, open that gosh darn door, and take on the Tower of Anxiety. I say we, but I should be stated that this was all my friend at this point. I was glued to the monitor watching him and helping him as much as I could, but he was the one actually playing. And this is actually also his footage that he gave me for the B-roll, by the way. I haven't even really attempted this part of the game yet, but yeah, if you thought the original tower was intense, this is basically it turned up to like 100. It's a way tighter, way more complicated set of platforming challenges that really, really test your skills with Sev's moveset. Some jumps and weird angles I didn't even know you could pull off in this game. And to add, honestly, insult to injury, this special area is the only area where if you fully die, you start at the very beginning. There are checkpoints for if you fall, but if you die, like run out of health, you're back to the start and gotta start climbing this tower all over again. And I think I mentioned the first tower wasn't too stressful. Well, this one ain't called the Tower of Anxiety for nothing. This will make your hands sweat for sure, but it's also just such a cool challenge, especially considering this is the final Grandmaster Galaxy-ass challenge room for doing every last thing in the game. So if you're able to conquer this and see the final results screen and... Wait, what do you mean? 60 more EXP cubes? Hello? We combed the entire level, inside and out. How? And come to think of it, we really didn't even figure out what those void screws meant. Yeah, I'm not kidding. There is actually even more hidden in this game. So me and my friend kept hunting for those EXP cubes, and any little EXP cube we found felt like a huge triumph. We had to start adding those few people from the forums on Steam to work together to get answers. Gotta shout out this dude Tankman. He was tirelessly working to find all the void screws and post about his findings and theories on where they could be hidden. Some are hidden so incredibly well in this world. Me and my friend were blown away by how much was tucked away in this tiny game. We started like equating it to the feeling of discovering Stop and Swap in Banjo-Kazooie. These secrets that almost felt as if the devs didn't even intend for us to find them. The dev, Bogo, was actually giving like very vague hints, helping the community in the search for these things. We felt like we were genuinely experiencing some like lost treasure ARG shit. Like we were unearthing this fascinating game's secrets before anybody else. And having this community-driven effort made it all so much fun. I don't think I've ever been in a circumstance like this with a game. I do recommend checking out the Steam forums if you really get stuck at this point. While we didn't have a ton of resources a few weeks ago playing this, it seems there are plenty of people finding answers now, and willing to give vague hints and nudges in the right direction. And honestly, you really need it for some of these screws. Some of them are insanely cryptic. You can definitely run into some if you explore the world thoroughly enough, but man, how the hell did he expect anyone to find some of these? I don't think there's any shame in using word of mouth or word of forum post to help figure stuff out in these circumstances. It almost feels as if the dev knew this kind of search would happen and encouraged people to help share their discoveries. But anyways, miraculously, there is a way to get to level 6, and the void screws are all possibly obtained. Now, I will be getting into another layer of spoilers here. This stuff I'm going to show was some of the coolest secrets in any game I've ever played. Genuinely. The sense of mystery and discovery was so ridiculously amazing to experience blind, and I wouldn't want to ruin that for anybody. But I also don't know if there's like a single record of some of this stuff in video format as of writing this. So I think it could be really cool to have this stuff out there. Plus, I want to gush about how much fun this was. So anyway, another spoiler warning. You can leave while you can, yada yada yada. Okay. So, you remember that vaguely faded question mark at the top of the anxiety tower right before you go through the door to see the results screen? No? Well, did you notice how one of them was missing a little dot on the bottom? No? Well, did you notice that there's also a question mark shaped digging wall thing in Hollow Wallow? No? Well, did you notice that that also was missing a dot? Okay, I think you get where I'm going with this. You break this wall and you're in this dark, eerie place with all these different hallways and rooms. Those void screws that you've been accumulating are actually used here, and since there isn't exactly a number of void screws the game tells you there are, you gotta explore this backrooms ass place to find where you place them, and hopefully you have them all. There isn't a ton to this area besides these doors and some really unsettling paintings, and oh shit, that's the pseudo-regalia girl. What? Full circle, huh? Lots of really cool nods to Bogo's older games too, and even some alternate color palettes for Sev. Neat. I love stuff like this, these barely explained ominous rooms that give you this kind of just weird, vague stuff to see. Like, are these unused enemies or some kind of unused model? I don't know, but it's here, and it was really well hidden, so it has some kind of air of secrecy to it. It honestly got a little unsettling at this point. The game isn't really scary, but the vibe you get when you tread through the underbelly of this game is weird, to say the least. Maybe it was this like truly blind knowledge of what lied ahead. Like, even if we wanted to know, there was no way to get an answer. It was like the perfect vibe for right before Halloween, to be honest. I wasn't really expecting this game to be the spooky, moody game this year, but here we are, exploring these weird hallways with these weird paintings. Like, seriously, what is that? At some point, you'll find a weird room called 2010. No explanations really, just sort of this low poly looking outdoors area with not much else. I assume this was a really early build of a test stage or something. If that's the case, this game was being made in 2010? That's insane. I know Bogo's original games can date back to like 2006, but to think this dude was developing this game for over 13 years, and I am barely hearing anything about it, is a crying shame. There is a truly liminal spacey feel to this area, a place that feels similar but is totally disconnected from the rest of the game. There is no answers in this area, only questions and theories about what it could mean. It's such a cool unlockable for getting this deep into this game. Even up until the very end of this experience, you're still uncovering secrets. I think that is so powerful and cool for a little indie game like this. And what do you know, a level 6 door, and we have the XP, so let's go to the final ultimate challenge of this game. The test room. Man, what a cool idea. Test rooms in games were always these like really alluring things for me. I used to watch these videos of people exploring test rooms in Paper Mario or Super Mario Sunshine, and it always filled me with this sense of excitement and, not gonna lie, kinda fear too. Like I'm seeing the inner workings of the game, something I'm definitely not supposed to see as a player. It kind of fills you with this dread. Like as a consumer, you're very cautiously fed the content you're supposed to see in these games, but these test rooms are kinda untreaded waters. Those rules and cautions don't apply here. Who knows what you'll find? So having the final back alley, deepest, darkest waters of this game be its test room feels so unbelievably fitting. And there is even a final little challenge to take on in this area, which me and my friend were embarrassingly stuck on for way too long. But once you find all these cubes scattered around, you unlock the final key to the door that awaits the true ending to this game. You leave the void room and are confronted with... Wait, Dog God? He's real? Holy moly, it was all worth it. And the game truly ends with a 110% on your profile for good measure, and thus ends the big exploration of Kidz 64. Whoa, what a crazy experience this game is. On the surface, I fully wrote this game off as a great, but albeit kinda underwhelming 3D platforming experience, but discovering everything this game has to offer is something super special, something I've never really experienced before with a game. Every secret, every discovery, every new, weird, unsettling detail we'd run into was so engaging. Me and my friend could barely stop thinking about this game for days. We'd discuss our theories on what it all was and what it all meant, what else could potentially be hidden away, and even details about the development of the game as a whole, which there is very, very little out there. The game actually has this very underlying message of it all being a dream, and while that can be kind of a cop-out in some media, it fits this game just all too well. It's like those weird dreams you have where you can't really describe what it was or what you were experiencing, but it's so memorable because of it. In an age of internet marketing and social media development updates and such, Kidz is such a unique gem of a game that kind of just popped into existence. It had a trailer a few months back, but ultimately had little to no coverage.
Like I was saying before, we could literally not find more than 3 or 4 people talking about this game when we were playing it, let alone documenting it for people to see. And while I did spoil a lot of what the game has to offer, I can't express enough how cool this game is to experience for yourself. I didn't spoil any answers to puzzles or exact locations of secrets because I do feel that sense of blind discovery is so rare these days. I used this analogy before, but it truly did kind of feel like discovering Stop and Swap in Banjo or like the Gaster stuff in Undertale. It's this like amazing pseudo-meta way that the game could evolve to be more than a game. It becomes this place to explore, these secrets to discover. I don't just get read the answers, you get to theorize and unearth the answers for yourself. If you get a chance, please check this game out. It's only a few bucks, and it really does deserve your attention. Even before all of the cool post stuff I got into, the 3 or 4 hour experience of the base game is well worth the price of admission. Corn Kidz 64 is not a Stephen King adaptation, but is one of my new favorite experiences I've had with a game in a long time. Something I didn't even know I could experience with a game at all. This little 3D platformer about a goat kid will definitely stick with me for a long, long time. So yeah, you picked the game up, right? It's like $6, right? This was totally worth your time and effort. Just play it, buy it, please. And if you have played it and came here to hear someone gush about it, let me know what you loved about it. Also, if Bogo ends up seeing this, genuinely thank you so much for your hard work on this game. The dedication and passion really shows through. Anyway, buy the game if you haven't. That's a demand, not a suggestion at this point. Sorry, I'm a cool YouTuber person. You gotta listen to me. I don't make the rules. Anyway, until next time, friends.